What typically happens with the founder in terms of their role in these home service brands that you've been part of?
Yeah, so they stay engaged and involved, especially in the very beginning, and it really depends on their appetite. Matt and I meet usually weekly. Kind of go. I've been up there, and they've helped us develop our training collateral. We've built a roofing structure in Charlotte to help train on how to do things, and we've involved them in those things. They'll have conversations with future franchisees to learn more about the founder story and the story of Frank, the scientist behind the
Mhm.
product as well. So we keep the folks engaged in that process, and they want to hear the story of what they're becoming a part of. And ultimately, the founder is the founder, and that's an important person to keep in the telling of the story of the brand and the evolution of the brand as well. So, yeah, we're involved with the founders, and that's true with the other brands that we've acquired as well. So
Uh-huh.
there's a good symbiotic relationship there.
And it's my humble opinion. I think that's fantastic. I think that that is something that is changing in franchising that may have been missed in the past with other platforms where they felt like once they acquired a brand, like the founder didn't matter anymore. And I think what a lot of platforms have come to realize is that the company begins to lose its soul if it doesn't have people who were associated with the brand earlier on. A platform can see a great opportunity, but buyers can kind of see through it when it feels soulless and they're just buying a franchise as opposed to buying something with a great story because people buy from people,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah,
there's,
they do. Yeah, they do.
and even if,
Like our representation of this business is up in Wisconsin right now with the founder location and the franchisee up there, Dan Lindstrom,
uh-huh.
in Appleton, Wisconsin. So our whole process of validation when candidates are going through this discovery process involves the actual locations too. So it's really important to be able to build those relationships and keep those relationships with the founders and make sure that the franchisees ultimately understand that story and who they are, and help get supported by them as well. So it's definitely part of what we do.
That's great. That's great. Okay, Michael, I don't know if you know this, but you are the first guest on Emerging Franchise Brands podcast to appear twice.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you, Frank, I do enjoy my coffee in the morning out of my emerging franchise coffee mug. It is actually one of my favorites. So, anyways,
Thank you.
thank
It
you
is
very
my
much. I'm so honored to be back again, and excited to be a part of a new story as well.
Yeah. So that's what I want to get to. I want to talk about your journey and your story. So when we met, gosh, when we interviewed, it was way back. It was in 2023 was our first season and you were the brand president of Pool Scouts. And so I'd love for you to kind of share with the audience your journey in franchising and what ultimately led you to Roof Scientist.
Yeah, so I have been fortunate to have a couple great mentors in my life, as most people have, can say. And my journey with Pool Scouts began with a relationship with Kevin Wilson, the CEO and founder of Buzz Franchise Brands, who I had known for a long period of time. And I think I shared with you on my last time that I was, on this show, that I had a chance to start up a lot of businesses in another environment, and stayed in touch with Kevin. Just so much respect for somebody who's such a great entrepreneur, and he was starting the second brand for Buzz Franchise Brands, which became Pool Scouts. We had at the time Mosquito Joe originally, which was a great brand that was eventually sold to Neighborly. And Kevin and I got an opportunity to lead that brand from the very beginning. So that was a 9-year run where I began and started the brand. We had a similar, very small acquisition and built it up at one point to 97 units across the country in 18 different states. And I really, really enjoy the startup. Frank, I've been lucky to be part of startup situations in my
Mhm.
past, and did that again with, once again, Pool Scouts, and loved that company and the people, and the franchisees. As a matter of fact, I had a great conversation with a franchisee. I'm here in Dallas today, and was supposed to get together, but had a long conversation with one of the franchisees here. Those relationships are ultimately super exciting in franchising. So I took some time off and had a really unique lifetime where my daughter was going to go to Costa Rica. My son was in Italy studying abroad, and I took some time off, 5 months off, which I'd never done in my life, which was really cool. Went to go travel with my son over in Europe, and went to Costa Rica with my daughter, and
Oh.
then really decided I was like, I'm ready to, to do something new. And I really was, I actually saw a LinkedIn ad from Jeff, who I'd known and had met
Mhm.
prior. And as you know, the franchising world's pretty small. And he was talking about looking for a new brand president. And so began the interview process, and right out of the gate, I was like, well, which brand is it? And then I found out pretty quickly it wasn't a brand that they already had. And I was like, well, I'm much more interested now than I even was. So, anyways, things happened, and I joined Homefront Brands in October to begin this journey of building this brand, through this acquisition that had already happened before I got there. So that's my journey to get to Homefront Brands. I've really had such an amazing first 6 months, which is really not that much time here. But we've been sprinting to kind of get things going, and we've built just a great team of people. I'm really proud of the brands that we've built. I was just showing my shirt here, and building the messaging behind the brand. And there's a lot of work to do, but ultimately, when you're surrounded by great people at the Homefront Brands level, and have been able to bring on some key folks for Roof Scientist, and then also being supported by Matt, the founder, and Frank Carmen, the scientist behind the product, we've got a good story going.
I love that you know who you are and that you love the startup of a franchise brand and not just want to take an opportunity just for the sake of it, but you're being true to who you are and in your wheelhouse and your gift, which there's nothing better than that, right? To be able to do
Yeah,
something that you love doing and the time period, because a lot of people who say they love franchising, well, what does that even mean? Do you love the startup? Do you love being emerging? Do you like the being part of a mature brand, or trying to maybe revive a brand? I mean, there's so many different aspects of it. It's the timeline of being part
right.
of something where it looks totally different, right? When you were Pool Scouts, it looked totally different in the beginning than it did 9 years
Oh, very
later,
much so.
right? So what about now? Like, tell me, like, what is life like when you're first starting a brand as a brand president and you're coming in, it's not your baby, you're the adopted parent, and there's one location, right? You just filed the FDD.
Yeah.
What's life like right now?
It's been, like I said, it's been a sprint. It's one thing to start a company or start a brand, and I've not started franchise brands bootstrapping. In both cases, I've been fortunate with Buzz Franchise Brands and Pool Scouts to be well funded, and that's the truth here too in Homefront Brands, meaning that we're not bootstrapping and doing things on the cheap. We're doing things right from the very beginning. That involves, how we build the brand and how we build the team of people, because it takes a lot. It really does take a lot to get things started. We've been building, like I said, the brand, all the marketing collateral, the messaging. We've been building, obviously, the team, which I'll talk about, but we've also been building the training collateral. We've been building all the systems to run the brand. We're building where people buy their ketchup packets, one of my favorite phrases, because in our case, it's roofing shingles and all the other things that we do. So we've been working really hard on doing that and doing it right. And we're really just now launching franchising through the channels that we've already built at Homefront Brands, and even relationships that have existed in my former world of knowing consultants and those kinds of events. So that's what we've been doing, and things are going well, and we've got a great team of people. I hired a gentleman named John Blair, who is our brand marketing director, tons of franchising experience, worked for Shine and worked for FranNet in the past, and worked for KFC originally, and he's a rock star. I've got a gentleman named Tanner Hamby, who was the director of operations for us, who has a ton of franchising roofing experience,
Okay.
which is like amazing to find him. And he really hit the ground running for us. And then another gentleman named Chris Stepanko, who was one of Jeff's right-hand guys at Vaniclean, Jeff's original brand that he built and sold. And then shared services groups. So it's a great group. And when you're surrounded with people that want to do things the right way and build things in a sustainable, template oriented fashion, which everybody understands because they've all been in franchising for a long time, it makes it fun. It doesn't make it easy, but it certainly makes it fun, and it makes it faster.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fumey, or Emerging Franchise Group LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.